Now it's not really easy to show you the inside, but what I've done is I've cut one of these seeds open so you can see the actual seed inside. Guten Yardening, everybody! I'm out here in front of one of two of the small raised beds that we have in our garden, and actually these were two of the first raised beds that we ever purchased as we started changing over our yard into yard and space. And today I'm going to walk you through the steps that we take to plant our beets, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the value that comes from planting beets, and also I'm going to talk to you about what it takes to raise them so that you get a really nice crop in about 7 to 8 weeks. First, let's take a look at what we're going to be growing these beets in. This is a raised bed, and the one that I'm going to show you second is about the same size, maybe a little bit bigger, but it's about 3 square feet of space here. And you can see it's about, I would say, 25 inches off the ground at the top here. And in terms of soil depth, if my hand goes underneath here, there's just about an inch of space there. So we're still looking at about 8 to 10 inches worth of growing medium in here. And in terms of growing medium, what we have here is a very loose soil. And if you were able to look at it really closely, you might see some of the grains of sand in here, because this is definitely a sandy soil. And that sandy soil is preferred by these beets. The carrots really like it, and that's one of the reasons why we've created a mix just like this. So in this mix, we have some cocoa cure, we have organic compost, we have some vermiculite, you can see that in here. And all told, when we put it all together here, we've got a mix that drains really well. And one of the benefits of this kind of mix in the spring, especially for beets, is that it heats up faster. That sand helps it heat up faster. And so we've got really nice warm temperatures the whole way through this soil. And so it's a really good idea for beets to start off with a nice sandy soil in the spring. Now, in terms of fertilization for the beets, what we've added is a generic all-purpose fertilizer, and because this is a root crop, we've added our bone meal. Now, we've talked about this in previous videos, and if you watch our video on amending versus fertilization, you'll see why it's important for these root crops to have a really nice phosphate level. So we're adding some bone meal, which gives us that 4-12-0, a really nice level of phosphate to help with root development. So this is all set and ready for us to go ahead and take a look at our beets. Now this time around, we're planting 3 different varieties of beets in these small beds. We have our Ruby Queen beets, which we have grown before. We have our beautiful golden beets, my favorite personally, which we've also grown before. And now for the first time ever, we're also growing some Detroit red beets. Now we got these from the Little Shop of Seeds, and if you've never visited their website, they're incredibly reasonable. I think they recently had to raise their prices to about 75 cents a packet, but what a deal for organic seeds that are in fantastic shape. These do really well for us. All the seeds that we planted from that place have done a great job in terms of germination rate. So even in this small space, we're going to be able to add all 3 of these varieties, and we should get some really nice production. Now, if you've never looked up close at beet seeds before, one thing you should know is that this is actually a carrying container, if you will, for somewhere between 2 to 4 beet seeds. Now, it's not really easy to show you the inside, but what I've done is I've cut one of these seeds open so you can see the actual seed inside. You see that little brown piece there? That's one of the seeds that was inside there, and I got lucky enough that I didn't cut that one in half. So really what happens is as these start to germinate, you'll get those seeds germinating from inside of here, and you could end up with 3 or 4 plants in one little area. So even though today I'm going to show you the distance apart that we're planting these is about 1 inch to 2 inches, when I put these in the ground, they're still going to need to be thinned out once they start developing. Once they get to about 4 inches tall after they've come out of here, there's no way I could grow and support 3 or 4 of these plants in the same hole and expect to get any kind of root growth. Now, even though these raised beds are kind of small in terms of what we try to grow in, and probably a little bit expensive in terms of square feet that you get out of them for the cost, they still might be a really good idea if you have a smaller growing space. Because again, you can see from my seating square here, there's 1 square, 2 squares, and then we've got another half square here and some space at the bottom. So realistically, you're again still looking at about 3 square feet of growing space, which isn't bad, especially if you have a smaller growing area that you can put something in. Now we're looking at our red holes here as about 2.5 to 3 inches. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant this, because I want these every 1 to 2 inches. I'm going to plant in my red holes here, and I'm going to use the blue hole as well, so that I can try to make the most out of this growing area. And because these are a little bit bigger, remember the general rule is the bigger the seed, you can go a little bit deeper. We're going to be planting these seeds at about a 1/2 inch depth and then covering them without packing it down. The first beets we're going to put in here are the Ruby Queen beets. Now remember, one of the reasons why we love our beets so much, and again I'm going to go about a 1/2 inch down, one of the reasons why we love our beets so much is they're just so healthy. In addition to being absolutely delicious, in my opinion, they're so healthy for you if you're somebody who suffers from high blood pressure. We talked about this in our what to grow in May or what to plant in May video. One of the things that beets do is they help to open up your blood vessels, and so that actually lowers your blood pressure. Again, you can see here I'm putting 1 in for every one of these circles that I've got, again, that depth down at a 1/2 inch. This is a really nice process. Again, if you haven't tried growing with the seeding square or planting with the seeding square, it takes all the guesswork out of this process of seeding. It's one of those amazing additions to our garden that I'm so happy that we have. It makes it so that we're not wasting our seeds, which is the last thing that we want to do. I mean, seeds aren't that cheap, and these days seeds are kind of hard to find depending on where you're looking. All right, we've got that square foot done. I'm going to do 1 more square foot of these Ruby Queen beets. Look how cool that looks. You can see the exact spacing where everything went in. Absolutely perfect. Now let's talk growing location. Where we have these beds are in full sun, and beets actually love full sun, though they can do just fine in a partial shade as well, but they definitely prefer that full sun. And since these don't take up a ton of space, these beds don't take up a ton of space, and they're pretty mobile. That's another really cool thing about these beds. They're easy to move around. They're a little heavy, but I can carry them for sure. So these can be moved to wherever best fits the crop that you're growing in them. So one thing that you might want to keep in mind as well is that whatever soil you put in these raised beds will need to be amended and will need to be fertilized. But if you know the crops that you're planning to grow in here, you can try to make the soil work for multiple different varieties, just like our beets and then our carrots that we grow in here as well. And there we go. So we got 2 squares of this. So now I'm going to keep red with red, and I'm going to go ahead and start planting these Detroit red beets to finish out this bed, and then we'll switch over to our other bed. All right, for this other bed, I'm going to put a full bed of the golden beets. They're my absolute favorite. I don't even know that they necessarily have that much of a different taste from the other varieties, but I just really love these. We've had great luck, great experience with these in the past. And I'll tell you, even though I don't mind beets from the can, I still like that taste a little bit. When you grow your own beets, it is not even remotely comparable to the stuff that you buy at the store, whether we're talking canned or fresh. I mean, it is not even close. These are so good, so much better, so much healthier anyway. And plus, you know, you can eat them right after you pick them. You can eat them raw if you want to. We like to steam ours, and again, they're versatile. You can pickle them, which we haven't done, but which we want to try. But you can eat them right away, and so that means you're getting the best out of it in terms of nutritional value. You're getting the most nutrients. It's fresh out of the ground. And again, the time frame for these is about 7 to 8 weeks, depending on the size that you want. Now for these, you can leave them in the ground longer, but that does not necessarily mean you're actually going to get a bigger root. In fact, what you'll likely end up with instead of that is a woodier tasting beet. So at 7 to 8 weeks, when you see those bulbs come up, you can certainly enjoy them. And the other thing is the greens. The beet greens are absolutely delicious as well. If you eat them when they're younger, let's say after about 4 to 5 weeks, you're going to find that you're going to like the taste of those. And you can prepare it similar as you would to spinach. All right, we're going to finish up this bed, and I'm going to talk to you about one more piece, which is watering. Now, if you follow our channel, you may have seen our video where we talked about the benefits of rainwater, and we're going to start off our beets today with some rainwater out of our rain barrel. So if you have the opportunity to water with rainwater, that's fantastic, but what you're looking at is about an inch of water per week. And there we have it. We've got our beets in the ground. In about 5 weeks, we can start harvesting some of the greens if we want to use those separately. Of course, we have to be careful because if we take too many of the greens away, then the roots themselves won't develop the way we want to. And then in about 7 to 8 weeks, we'll have some outstanding beets, and we'll have a pretty nice selection as well. We hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you're looking for other tutorials on growing in a tight space, just check out some of the rest of our videos. And if there's something you'd like to see on our channel, go ahead and leave us a suggestion and we'll see what we can do. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe. And most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.